I'll go introduce myself. I've been here a long time, so sometimes I forget to introduce myself. I've been at Cornerstone longer than I haven't. That just happened recently. So yeah, I always say since the late 1900s, which is 1999. But so, Kim van Rooyen, wife of Glenn van Rooyen. Maybe you know Glenn, and I'm the better half. I'll claim that. So yeah, I studied mechanical engineering. That was a very long time ago. But I didn't stay in it very long. I worked for the Rand Water. They were gracious enough to give me a bursary. And I was very much in love with Glenn, so we did need to get that thing done in 4 years. So there was no delay in getting married and all of that. And by the grace of God, I managed to do it in the 4-year plan and not the average 5.2-year plan. And yeah, anyway, I didn't work in that very long. And then I went into software for another 11 years. Loved that. I had different phases of it and all of that. In the end, was working part-time while I had children. I've got 2 lovely girls, 21 and 18. That's Alexa. She's very involved in kids ministry. And Abigail, she's studying biology at Wits. So they're both at Wits at the moment. So time is marching on. So that's me. Oh, then after 11 years of software, we joined Eldership full-time. And I've been working here since 2011. Landed up doing the accounting. Salaries were paid today, which is great. I got my SMS. It was a bit of a tricky business trying to do a talk and finalize the salaries, but by the grace of God, there we are. I'll check that everything was paid later on today, but usually get complaints if they haven't. So I think we're good. I didn't get any complaints. All right, so that's me. And we're looking at Colossians 3:18 till I don't know when, because there's quite a bit of information here. And I'm not going to just gallop to the end. So there might be a bit of a gap in your Colossians learning, but I know that you ladies are well-versed and can go find the spaces on your own. All right. Cool. So the different sections is, you'll see why it's quite big. The first one is the different relationships that we find ourselves in. That's the one first big section. And then the inheritance as a reward, and then prayer and wise living. So you can see these are whole chapters on their own. But we'll get going and see how far we get. Cool. So, Colossians 3:18. Paul is talking about relationships between different groups of people. Christian godliness has its greatest test in relationships with people who are close to us. And I often see that in young people when they give their lives to the Lord on fire. I mean, I was the same. On fire for God, but then you get home, you don't want to do the dishes, you're fighting with your parents, they're so unreasonable. But in the end, those are the relationships you need to get right. Those are the relationships that are hacking off the edges, your sharp edges, your willingness to submit. Okay, so the first thing, and I know we've been, can I just have a show of hands here firstly? How many here are married? Okay, cool. How many husbands? Okay, we can skip that part. Although we do like to chirp on it. We think they got the easier job. Anyway. Are there any here with children under 18? Okay, a couple of children under 18. So those are the parents. I don't see any children under 18. Mine is here, but she's already 18. So. Okay, cool, no children. Then we're going to look at workers and employees. Are any here workers in some sort of... Okay, cool. And employers? All right, so we're just going to... scooch over these, but they all have their applications, even broader than just those titles. So, Paul goes into this very quickly. He gives one command for each group of people. And when I first took this topic, one of them is parenting. We give 4 weeks of parenting teaching, so there's a lot. I thought, we can, even if I just give you the parenting course, I can get through this half an hour. But so wives are to learn to submit. I know we've been through that. And I just want to encourage you that it's not only wives that have to submit. Take courage in the fact that the Bible says we must submit to one another. And we have to submit to authorities in our life. And there's always an authority in our life. So it's not only wives that have to submit. Take heart. We're not being picked on. Children need to learn to be obedient. We like to put that on, I noted here, there's not many children. So we don't have to go too much, but it says, children, obey your parents, for this pleases the Lord. So Paul is mainly speaking to younger children. If your children, as they are here, are older than that, they themselves become wives and husbands, and they become parents. So the relationship does change. So this children must be obedient to their parents. It's not really for older children. They do need to respect you. Everybody deserves respect, but if sometimes we can get stuck there. I felt a great freedom when I got married. We were trying to be obedient to my in-laws, and there was just a lot of conflict in that. Like you're trying to carry on with your own life, but you're also trying to be obedient. I just want to free you today in that. It's not an obedience, it's a mutual. You go from they're dependent on you to to independence. Then I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that, where your children move out and then they're independent. Then you become interdependent with the grandchildren. I've seen that. Grannies come alive and see the grandchildren, and then you are dependent on your children. So it's amazing to think that even though your children are your children, you could have been their children. So we are equal in all of this, and so it's a case of respect and helping and loving. The one thing it does say to parents is, fathers, do not aggravate your children, or they will become discouraged. And for me, the word discouraged stood out. So it is talking to fathers. Obviously, mothers are also, we tend to be on the gentler side of things, and that's always the tension. Are you too lax or too strict? And in the end, only the end result will tell what happened. But if we just take this verse, or they will become discouraged. If you want to take one command from this verse, even as Paul is working through one command for each section of group of people, is encourage your children. Encourage them. If it's difficult, you know them well, and you know all their faults, especially if they're not serving the Lord wholeheartedly. You know their faults. You know you hope for more. You know what you want to see changed. Just take a breath and just find something to encourage them for. I just felt that this morning. I'm going to be talking about concentrating on that one thing. And so that's why I'm encouraging you. Concentrate on that one thing. Encourage. And it's not only for children, it's for everyone. We need to be encouraged to grab our inheritance. And I'm going to be talking about that later. So it moves on. It says, workers are to learn to work well. Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything you do. And we're going to go a bit more into that a bit later. And then employers are to learn justice. Masters, be just and fair to your slaves. So Paul has something to say for everyone. And he has one thing to say of each kind of person. And like I said, in counseling and in a parenting course, we can really go on for hours on different kinds of advice. But if you're stuck, if you find yourself lost and you don't know what to do anymore, or you've tried a few things. I remember when my kids were young, you try something and you try it again, and then you try it again and it doesn't work. And you're like, oh, it doesn't work. Try something else. No, let's push through with that thing. So this week I did ask Bill Taylor, I don't know if you know him, but old man Bill used to be an elder here. And he told the story of how he used to, I thought it was swearing, but it wasn't swearing. It was escalating arguments with his wife, Julia. So he was born again, and they had been growing spiritually, but he would still escalate the arguments. So that's what he explains. And you know what an escalation is? It's like, it just gets louder and louder, and I call it bickering. And when you're in the presence of somebody bickering, you're like, very awkward. So a friend of his told him, Bill, you are a wonderful man. Julia, you're a wonderful woman. But when you're together, you're fraught. Okay? I asked him to make a video of the story, but only half the video came through. So we had technical difficulties. But those were the words I heard this morning. Bill, you are fraught. Anyway, apparently it didn't take well to that lady, didn't speak to her for a while. but took it to mind, took it to heart. And Bill is very big on SMART goals, okay, S-M-A-R-T. And S stands for specific. Okay, so I'm not going to go into a whole SMART goals lesson right here, but S is specific. You need to know your goal. You have to have values attached to it. So he would count how many times he escalated an argument in a day. And, okay, the video cut off before that part, but I remember him saying like 20 times a day. And I find that hard to believe, but then I still think of some old people, like my parents, and sometimes they can bicker that much. I'm like, guys, don't you get to the end of it? Anyway, 20 times, let's say 20 times. So he set a goal. He's like, at the end of this week, we're getting that down to 15 times. And he did. And the next week, okay, we're getting that down to 10 times. And eventually, the bickering stopped, the escalation stopped. And so it's just a picture of how you just focus on this one thing. I mean, who would have thought to put a value to bickering? But there he did, and he worked it, and he got down to nothing, and he had victory in his life. And, overcame that thing, which is great. I mean, you first have to recognize it. But maybe something in your life, I mean, I know we each got an instruction here, but you could take 1 Corinthians 13. If there's a relationship you're struggling with, love is patient, love is kind. Okay, you said 10 unkind things. Let's get that down to 5 unkind things and 5 encouragements. You know, work it properly, work on it hard, and you'll find that your actions aren't matching your intentions initially. And then, let's work to, I'm sure there's quite a few hard relationships in this room. And sometimes we just get out of practice. We might get into a good place, but then we fall back into the old habits. So I think the advice with Paul just giving these quick, broad sweeping instructions, you can take that to heart when you take it one thing to do and concentrate on it and get victory. Cool. That's the first challenge. Then we read in, are we all right out there? Amen? Can I have an amen? Okay, good. Thanks. Colossians 3:22 is talking about inheritance. And I'm so excited about this subject. I'm so excited, I feel like I'm not going to get it across. I'm just going to go slowly. I forgot to look at the time, but I'm going to go. Okay, I'm still good. Okay, cool. So Paul says, slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything you do. We've read this already. Try to please them all the time, not just when they're watching you. Serve them sincerely because of your reverent fear of the Lord. Work willingly at whatever you do as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. So Christian godliness has a lot to do with fulfilling your role in society and relating to those over us in authority and below us in authority. So I just want to take a moment here. In my life, a revelation that stands out is Matthew 8:8-10. It says, the centurion replied, Lord, it was the centurion who was looking to have his daughter healed. He says, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, truly, I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. And his great faith is linked to his understanding of authority, that he is under authority and he's over authority. So I want to be known for some great faith. So if you're in like King David, I always also stands as a pillar in my understanding of submission. He submitted to King Saul. I mean, he was anointed king. God had said, you're going to be king of Israel. He had every right to feel like he could challenge Saul and just take the position from him, but he stayed submitted to the anointed king. A mighty warrior of God. I mean, I can just imagine he must be very strong, very able to kill and slaughter and strategize and take over, but he didn't. He stayed submitted to God by staying submitted to Saul. And I mean, Saul was losing the plot. There were many reasons to just take charge. And he stayed submitted to Saul. So a great king, the great king of Israel, had to submit. And when his son, Absalom, tried to take over his position, so, David let it go. He actually left the castle, or the palace, what do you call it? The city, palace. Thanks, Barbara. He left the palace saying, well, maybe this is my time, and maybe this is God's will. And he submitted to God in that. Somebody was taking it from him when he himself wouldn't even dare to take it from the guy before him. And he left the palace. And then God sorted the whole thing out, and he came back to the palace. I mean, for me, that just fills me with great faith. There is no power that is set above me that can stand in place of God. So maybe there's some leader over you, maybe your husband, and you just feel like oppressed by him. But you can know that God is still in charge. There is nothing standing in your way of your inheritance. No leader, no authority that's standing in your way between you and God that he can't deal with. And so Paul here is talking to slaves, which is the worst kind of employment. I mean, sometimes I kind of quickly did a count. I've probably done the salaries here more than 100 times. It gets, when you're filling in another beneficiary form for a provident fund, it gets a bit much, But I remind myself, Kim, you're not a slave, you're paid. What a blessing, But yeah, the instruction is to slaves who get nothing. And still, Paul is saying, work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than people. So no matter what it is that you're doing, do it willingly. No matter the washing. I did the washing this morning. I'm like, wow, Lord, it's a lot of brooks. There's a lot. And I keep doing this twice a week. That's, wow. So just and to think that washing is getting you stuff in heaven. You're doing it willingly and as to the Lord. Amen. You can't see it right there, but it is. You're doing it with a grateful heart. There's always the limits of sin. So, don't go to there. I'm sure you won't. But you should be obedient, even when you feel like you're right. And I'm mostly right. You know what I mean? Have your eye on God, not on human beings. They do it as unto the Lord. Do it energetically and wholeheartedly. Okay? We just have this tendency for our entitlement to grow, and then sometimes we just have to bring it back. Like, why must I do all the washing? Why must I also do the ironing and the folding and the getting the back to the rooms? Honestly, there's 4 of you in this family. So just do it wholeheartedly. Go the extra mile, okay? Okay, I'm glad it's resonating. It's not slavery, ladies. Just be grateful for that. So why must we do this? And how do we do this? Okay, Christians have their eye on inheritance. Verse 24 says, remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and that the master you are serving is Christ. But if you do what is wrong, you will be paid back for the wrong you have done, for God has no favorites. So that's very sobering. But inheritance is reward, and it's not only heaven. It's not only sitting in your palace in heaven, or your 3-room house in heaven with the 2 dogs. Please, Lord, let there be dogs. It's not only in heaven. You also reap here, right now. Obviously, if you do the right thing, it feeds back to you. If you do it with a happy heart, it feeds back even more. So it's for now and hereafter, and it's not about justification, new birth. So it's not about salvation. It's not about losing your salvation. It's about, and it's not only heaven. I just want to read Hebrews 11, verse 6. It says, and without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. So we must believe God is there, and sometimes we find that difficult, especially when we have adversities or we're living with somebody grumpy or ungrateful. It feels like God is absent. Even when you know you've been praying, you've been doing the right thing, it feels like he's absent, but you must believe that he is there because he is. And in the same way, we must also believe in reward. Because that second part says, believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. So somehow, believing, if you don't believe in reward, it somehow is displeasing to God as well. And so for me, this is so exciting. I mean, it's like a heavenly motivation, heavenly ambition. I mean, to do the right thing in the right time, to do good works. You're getting inheritance, which kind of, you're in your head, you're like, ambition is wrong. But this is a good ambition. This is a good ambition to have rewards in heaven, rewards now. And this is what God has set before you. Like they're running the race. You have your lane. There's a prize at the end. I'm a runner. It's difficult to get up when it's 5 degrees. I mean, my limit is 5 degrees. I don't run, if it's colder than 5 degrees, this is what I say. Okay, but then you get up. It's not that cold in the house. You put on your books, you put on your stuff, you go downstairs, car says -3. Or not -3, 3. Now you're like, well, I've got standards. I'll say 5. But there's no way you're backing up, back to the room, back to bed. You're awake now. So you're running 3 degrees. And you got the balaclava on the bottom and the balaclava at the top. And you look like the Taliban. But there you go, It's not easy. So my point is getting this inheritance takes focus. Getting your inheritance in your lane takes concentrating. You need to work it out. What is it? When you lose track, when you go into somebody else's lane, or you trip and you fall to the middle circle, get up quick. You're losing. Come, get back. Finish the race. And don't worry about the ground you lost. Just get back. You could make 4th place or 5th place, okay? Anyway, there's a whole story with comparison. I'm not talking about, I'll get into that just now. But I'm excited when I lose focus, when I'm like, why am I here again? Why am I here again at church? I'm sure I've heard a million messages. Lord, why? Why must I pray? Why must I be nice? Why must I make a meal? Why? Why? Because there's reward for you. There's inheritance for you. So excited. Anyway, sorry. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about comparison and your lane. So sometimes here at church, we get some foreign currency in the tithe, okay? And the other day, we got a small handful of American dollars, and it was a lot of money. I was like, sure, that's much easier to count than the actual rands of that. But what I want to say is there's a heavenly currency, okay? Because what happens is I have to do something in accounting, so that means I've got to go look up what is the dollar's worth. All right, so we go to the currency exchange website, and we punch in, I forget what it was, but let's say it was $800 or whatever it was. You put USD. It's got a code for the actual currency. USD, United States dollar. And we want it in South African rand. That is ZAR, which is probably Zuid-Afrikaanse rand. But anyway, that's our code. I don't mind it. It's cute. It's easy to find because it's usually at the bottom of the list there. And then you get the value, okay? So I thought, the things you do on this earth have, in God's eyes, its own currency, its own heavenly currency. So I kind of thought, I wonder what the code would be. HEA, No, I thought, no, it needs a name. So probably heavenly coin. So we could go HEC. Yeah, HE shekel, HES. But I think of the woman who put 2 coins in the tithe bowl of the Bible, and Jesus said she gave more than anybody. 2 coins more than anybody, which means each of us here have our own currency code. Each of us. So it's actually HKC, Heaven Kim Coin. Okay. We've got our own lane. We've got our own conversion rate. We've got our own instructions from God. We've got our own reward to get. And we need to work that plan. It might not look like anybody else's plan. We're going to get to praying here. Maybe just think of the exchanges you could do. You could, if you aren't very mobile, if you aren't, I know a lot of you ladies come here during the week, you can't make it on Sundays. You might feel incapable, unable, restricted somehow. But you could change. You could make an exchange. You could pray. You could pray instead of going. You could give to somebody else who is able to go. Then we're making a little exchange. You're putting in your 2 coins. Maybe you think it's just 2 coins. But Jesus does the conversion. And there's a whole lot of inheritance for you. And so right now, I feel like that. I just recently posted a trip we did in Gazonka ways ago, 2001. We went all the way to the north of Tanzania in a car. It's madness, okay? Took us 6 days to do that. I love that. That's my kind of thing. When I saw that video, I really thought my life would be filled with more of those things. So maybe when you hear about trips and things like that, maybe that's the first thing you think is, well, I can't. Or do this. I can't. My husband wants me at home. I need to submit to that. Okay. Or my mom is sick. Okay, I can't. But make an exchange. Make an exchange because you do have things in your hands. And one of those things is praying. Okay, we're not going to actually get to the teaching of praying, but make the exchange for your inheritance. Let that motivate you. Let that wake you up today. Today you can do something. Today you can make an exchange and get some of your inheritance. Inheritance comes by good works. Okay, our basic salvation is not by good works, but our inheritance comes by persistent works of faith. So if we trip, let's get up, let's find a faith, let's do a thing, let's make a plan. And if you're completely lost, just love God and love people and you'll soon find your purpose. Love God and love people, you'll quickly find your purpose. That's the greatest command. Okay, I'm going to skip that. Our position in the kingdom of God is totally undeserved and is in no way a reward for good works. But yet, within our position as secure children of God, God does reward his people for their good works. It will be finalized in the judgment day. There will be rewarding inheritance for those who have lived lives of godliness. Okay? It's a good argument to say if you get born again and you're saved, why do anything else? Yeah, you're right. Why do? Because of the inheritance. Let's grab it, okay? There is going to be an amount of pain when you realize what you could have got and you didn't cash in, okay? Christians who have not lived lives of godliness will be paid back for whatever wrong has been done. And God says there's no favoritism. Let's just read that again, Colossians 3:25. But if you do what is wrong, you'll be paid back for the wrong you have done. For God is no favorites. And I don't think any of us are out here torturing anybody or maliciously doing wrong things. But I think there is a loss in negligence. So that's what I'm speaking to today is don't neglect prayer, don't neglect your inheritance, don't neglect good works. Be inspired again for zeal for good works. So Paul was talking to the slave, and I just feel like any Christian who's in an agonizingly difficult situation, obviously slaves were in difficult situations. But if Paul was speaking to that, then Paul is speaking to your difficult situation, whatever it is right now, whatever it is you find difficult, whatever it is you have painstakingly prayed through, been patient through. The Bible is encouraging us today. Then I want to just chat about employers. It says, masters, treat your slaves justly and fairly, for you know that you also have a master in heaven. So for me, obviously I employ a lady once a week. She comes and helps me clean. And I was challenged with this a long time ago, is to the what you pay, let it be above the going rate, let it be generous. If you actually research living wage, okay, what it actually, and I'm sure you all know, life is so expensive. And if you research that, the living wage is very, very high. So you need to do a bit of looking, a bit of thinking, a bit of considering. If you have, I'm just taking this one example, somebody working in your house, even if it's once a week, helping you clean. As an employer, because you are an employer, you need to consider that you're just and fair. And the one way to know that you're just and fair is to be generous. Okay, so then I did the math myself, and the amount was, wow, it was a lot higher than the going rate. So I made this deal. I said to her, okay, for the same rate, you only have to work half a day. And so I ended up doing the washing that I was complaining about this morning. I do all the washing so that half a day is more than enough. This, I promise you, it made no sense to her. She didn't understand what I said. And she still worked till a bit later, but then anyway, it sunk in. So she doesn't work the whole day, and I'm happy with that. So in this small situation where you are the employer of somebody in your house, you need to be just and fair. There's an opportunity you have to be just and fair and to consider their plight and what they do in your home. And you can make a difference. Maybe also just get into that washing. It's fun, you know, colors together. And it's kind of like a puzzle. It's all right. Especially when the socks don't match. Then that's very, okay. Just put that in the lost sock bin. All right, ladies. I'm not going to get to pray. But I hope that challenges you this morning. Each one of you here, you've got your lane, you've got your heavenly currency. Put your 2 coins in. Today, even, just get to it. Praying is going to take, let's say that, praying is going to take concerted effort. The one thing that's in my mind at the moment, and I don't know why I'm quoting the Taylors so much, but Julia will wake up, grab her coffee, and go and sit and work through her prayer list before anything else. And that's me and running. The reason I run at 5 a.m. in the morning is because I don't want my brain to get involved. We're not negotiating my way out of this. And so maybe that's what's required of you. You get up, in your pajamas, in your gown, by the heater if you must, but don't fall asleep. Grab your coffee and don't get up from that chair until you've worked through, set a SMART goal, 5 people. And then work your way up to a little bit more. Okay? Do this. It's going to require that kind of concerted focusing, concerted rethink of the situation. Don't leave it again. Let's do this. And then put your 2 coins in, make an exchange for heaven.